And welcome everybody to the Improvement Lounge, episode 6. I am your host, Marcus, alongside with Sean. Today we got a special guest. Tony Taylor Inspires is back with us to talk about some inspiring quotes today that essentially helped drive us and keep us motivated to do the things that we do. So before we get started, Sean, Tony, how you guys been?
I'm
Awesome,
good,
man.
brother.
Awesome.
Yeah,
How you
I'm
guys
good.
been?
Hey,
Yeah.
that's weird. Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I talk too much. It's one of those things, right? No, we good. I think we should. Hey, it's one of those things that, like, you know how, like, when you first start a conversation, and I love this, and you're just like, no, you go, because what we're doing is, we're trying to see where we fit at in this space, and I think that's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? It's like the beginning, like we already got a relationship, but we're just trying to figure out, like, in this moment and in this time, like how do we navigate through it? So that's dope. Yeah, that's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, things have, I know off camera we were talking about just kind of what's been going on with everything, right? Just, I know coming into this particular podcast, I was thinking about different themes and topics to talk about. And so I kind of just had this epiphany today about quotes and what's really like driven me. I know, like, possibly with you guys, I know we've talked about different quotes and we like to go through these podcasts and talk about specific quotes that have really like driven us. And so today I actually heard a quote that was really interesting that I haven't heard, but it's something that I have, and I know it's something we've talked about before as far as like fear and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular quote was something I heard today and was like, man, that really is like relatable. And I know there's another quote I have specifically that I've kind of really lived by over the past couple of years, made a lot of different changes because of it. But the quote I'm talking about, I guess I can go ahead and get started with the quotes. I mean, I don't know if you guys can just bring these quotes up out of the blue if you guys memorize quotes like that. I don't memorize quotes like that. I have them written down because I don't memorize those things, but especially this particular one that I saw today. But the one quote I'm talking about fear is unchain your mind from the imprisonment of fear. And that is by C.T. Fletcher. And that in myself is just like, it's just it, right? Unchaining your mind to overcome the imprisonment of fear. I mean, that in itself, I think is something we all have to overcome and be okay with uncertainty, and something we've talked about before. But again, one of the best quotes essentially to help you overcome that and try to just let go, right?
Yeah. I definitely think that's a big thing, stepping outside of fear. Like, it paralyzes you. I agree. Actually, I'm gonna have to put that quote down. CT, one of my dads.
Yeah, I like CT too.
Yeah.
Did he say it like that? Was no F bombs?
The actual quote in itself, I mean, he said a bunch of long stuff with it, but the quote I specifically heard was that quote about unchaining your mind. So it's essentially imprisoning yourself, right? Because that's what we all do. We imprison ourselves from doing those things that we want to do because of the fear that is holding us back.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's funny that CT is the one that said that, because, man, I was looking at his story, and oh my God, like his story, I went and lift weights like right after, right? Like seeing everything that he was going through, man. Like the way, like when he's like lifting and he's like curling and he's talking to him and he's just like, grow. And the fact that, that he has that amazing quote about fear, it just lets you know, like, that is real with him, man. They told him, that he would, not to exercise again, or he could lose his life, and he freaking did it anyway. Like, he's like defeated the odds, and you have to have some kind of fear. I would be afraid of dying if I did that, but then he overcame it, and I don't necessarily think that would be like the smart thing to do, right? To like go, like I would do that. But I think about life, and I think about, the fears that we have. I think about the fears that other people have for the things that we're doing or the things that we're trying to do. And that fear, oh my God, like it really chains you up. I always look at it as, just somebody that's being claustrophobic and in a straitjacket, right? And
yeah, exactly.
like you can't, like, once you get over the fact, okay, this is where I'm at, and I need to figure out a way to get out of this, because you can get out of a straitjacket, right? You can get out of a straitjacket, but when you're moving around and you're moving around in it and you're moving around in fear, like they say that it like cinches up and basically like it restricts on you even more. So if you take some time and think, okay, how can I get out of this situation, or how do I get into this situation and get past my fear? Like, how do I get past my fear? And I think that's always the first step, is figuring out a plan and then working that plan. But yeah, I love that quote. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah. One of mine is, I don't know who it's by. I just always heard my mother say it. Time waits for nothing and no one. That inspires me all the time. Even to bring me back to the balance that I may need, because we get so busy. We started things like entrepreneurship. We started to make sure we can have more flexibility in our schedules for our families, most of us.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we get so busy, we forget why we started. So I always try to bring it back to that. Like off camera, Tony, like when you're thinking about somebody, that's, for me, that's another confirmation that I got some people I'm gonna call. I was even thinking when you said that, I might even start to record it and just send them a message real quick.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Hey man, I was letting you know I was thinking about you. Boom, let it go. In my experiences, every time I was thinking about somebody too long and didn't speak to them, something happened. So now I'm trying to really get better with that. So just thinking about time waits for nothing and no one. I have no idea. I don't know if my mother created it, but I've heard that so long. That
she created and manifested it in you. That's cool, man.
Yeah, I think that's what's really most important, man. Especially like you have this perspective shift on time. If you lose someone or someone like that that's close to you, and I've always felt like you need to let people know, right? Because the sad thing is we pour, I think in my mind, like we pour too much into like holidays and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'll just postpone it till then. Yeah. Well, why not just do it now and do it every day? Or it doesn't have to be every day, but like, once a week or once a month, something like that, just to acknowledge those people that are helping you along the way.
Yeah. Nothing's guaranteed, right? Like nothing's guaranteed. So like, try to get it out of the way. So I'm just thinking now, like the quickest part is like, hey man, send them a message, record it.
Yeah.
Video, whatever. Hey, what's up? They might think it's weird, but eventually they'll be like, man, at least they'll know.
Oh yeah, they'll know that you're hitting them. Just like when when I was telling you, that's what I would do. To my cousins, I would just call and just say, "Hey, shut up, Sherita. Shut up, Kamisha." Right? That's my way of just saying, and hang up on them. I forgot that part. Just, my way of saying, "Man, I'm thinking about you, and you're on my heart." And it's been, man, I've had. I was thinking about this yesterday, man, when I was in a sauna. That quote. Right? Not thinking about that quote, but thinking about the times that I made a miss somebody or they missed me. And the biggest part or the biggest situation that I've been through was with my father. Me and my dad, man, my father was not in my life. I've probably seen him about 7 times, right? 7 times in my life. And probably 6 of those 7 times we were at it, right? We were at it. I had this chip on my shoulder. My mother raised me by herself. You was too busy out being a gangbanger, or he was a vice president of a motorcycle club, right? And he was a drug dealer and this and that, and everything was so much more important. But as I started to grow, right, and I started to kind of like almost kind of form a relationship with him, we fell out. He asked me this weird question. He said, how many kids is that? How many kids do you have right now? And I'm taking you on this journey so you can see where I'm coming from, right? So he said, how many kids do you have right now? And me as a father, I'm just like, wait a minute. You're my father and you don't know how many kids I got. I was getting ready to have my baby girl Mia, and it just took me by surprise because I had got off the phone with my mother. And of course, my mother knew everybody. My mother's like a staple in our household, and it just took me back, and I was just like, what the hell do you mean? How many kids I got? You know what I'm saying? And we had just went through it, and I'm outside playing with my daughter Sanaya. We're playing in the yard, and I just went on the porch, and I just kind of like went off on them. And that's not the last time that we talked. I can't remember anything else in between. I know we talked a couple more times, but that was the last memorable experience that I had with him. And I remember, hearing and finding out that he had passed away. He passed away.
Oh man!
And make a long story short, I talked to his girlfriend, and his girlfriend told me that he had been trying to call me, and she looked at his phone the night before he passed away. He was trying to dial. He had dialed 253-267-3400 instead of 44, and he had tried it multiple times. And the week before that, or the months before that, I had been telling my wife, I want to call my father. I need to call my father. But I'm so busy with my career and going through all the things I was going through. And then in my mind, I had this fear in my mind of, I don't want to argue with him if I call him. I don't want him to upset me. And then he passed away, man. And I was just like, damn, I should have. I wish I would have called him. And it was something that was in his soul that was telling him to call me. And I don't want that ever to happen again with anybody else that I love. I want them to go knowing, we might not have the best relationship, or we might have the best relationship, but I love the hell out of you. And that's everybody that's in my life, man. I love the hell out of y'all. You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to do this again with y'all. And I think that that's important in letting people know, how you feel about them. I was looking at something on I think it was on YouTube, and Fat Joe was saying, oh man, he wished he would have reached out to DMX and all of these other different situations that people have when they pass away. Shaq and Kobe, right? They're killing themselves because they're like, damn, I should have called them. And your mom is absolutely right, dude. Time waits for no one at all. Yeah,
that's definitely a thing, man. It's just, I know for me, like growing up, like my dad was never an emotional person, so for like me, it was hard to like relay emotion. But I know Sean and I talked about this and off camera about like emotion and stuff and how it's important, and to try to like implement that with the relationships that we have, right? Personal, professional, whatever the case is, and try to let people know, not hold back. And I think a lot of times, even like coming, from the way my father essentially taught me, was to not express emotion, right? And to try to break out of that and essentially, wear your heart on your sleeve and throw your emotions out there, right? Like, you only live once. Like, you put it out there. If it works, it works. It doesn't, right? But ultimately, just let people know exactly how you feel. I think that's extremely important.
Marcus, I agree with you, man. The most important, one of the reasons why we hold back a lot of times is, like you said, what we've been taught, and the vulnerability aspect of it. Like, now you're shown, you know what I mean? To be, and nobody really likes to be vulnerable. Guys, we all like this, but nobody likes to be like that. Because then you're like, look, man, it's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. But at the end of the day, I really feel like, this is my opinion. And say we live every day. I don't like to say we live once. I don't know. I think you live, until you die or whatever. But I feel like life is short, and I don't want to go holding everything in. So I'll let people. Now, of course, you're gonna have your circle, because everything isn't for everybody. Disclaimer: we know this. Everything isn't for everybody. Like, you'll set yourself up doing that. But definitely letting people know. And if they're not mature enough to handle that, that's on them. But you did what you need to do. You're free.
Yeah. Well, that's it, man. Like if you put it out there, right, as opposed to beating around the bush, and I think that's so important because maybe people don't feel the same. Maybe you don't know that, right? Maybe this is a thing too, right? Like you talk about like relationships, right? Like there's so many things like on YouTube and stuff about people having issues with relationships, right? If you don't talk about it, right, and put it out there, like this is where I stand. Do you stand with me or not? And then you're not wasting time. It goes back to that quote you're talking about, right? But you're not wasting time. At least you know where you stand. And then if the other person doesn't feel that way, well, then move on. And then you know where you stand, and you're not wasting all that additional time. And so that's a great quote. Yeah. There's also that quote. I don't know exactly how it was, but a person lives. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I think the quote goes something like, "The person lives twice. The first time you live, and the second time you actually understand that you only have one life," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's when you actually you become woke, right?
Yeah.
And then you start making the changes that you want to make.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah. It's funny how life works, and we're talking about being vulnerable, and that's one thing that I got challenged with the other day was somebody reached out to me, and they was just like, man, it was weird, man. It was so weird. It was like I got this phone call out of the blue, and it was this lady. She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you picked up." She had got my stuff on. She had been following me on, I think it was on LinkedIn, and I'm like, "What do you mean you can't believe that I picked up? I don't understand." Like it was like she thought I was this like larger than life character, and I'm like, no, I'm outside freaking throwing grass seeds, and I'm just you know what I mean? I'm just like you. But we had this conversation, and I just kind of played it off, and it went from a point of admiration to a point of, don't you understand and realize how great you are? And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, well, like she got into me, and I was telling my wife, I was just like, this conversation that I had, like, it was almost like life changing. It was like, it was life changing. She says, Tony, I feel like, just you were surprised when I said it. And I feel like that you're holding back. And you know how we are, man. Initially, I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, like, you don't know me. you don't know me. What do you mean? I'm holding back. But then as I hung up the phone, man, I jumped. I was on a podcast, and I just wasn't right, and I just kept thinking about that, and I'm like, damn, she's right, man. I am holding back, and that goes back to the first quote that you had when you're talking about fear. Mm-hmm. I am holding back, and I'm not being as vulnerable, right? I'm not being as vulnerable as I should with the people that rock with me. And I just like, man, like what can I, and it's weird, like just thinking about that, like, cause I've always been one of those people that pride myself on telling everybody everything. Like, yeah, there's some days that, I feel like I can't get out of the bed. And then I say that, and then there's so many other people that resonate with that. And I'm just like, oh man, you like that? That's like my darkest like stuff. Like there are some days where I just cannot get out of the bed because, like we were talking about before, I'm just in my head so much. And it's just sometimes when you're motivated by something, you become obsessed by it. But in the point of being vulnerable, like it's cool for us to let the people know that we're going through that, because maybe you're going to inspire them, or maybe they can inspire you, right? Maybe they can inspire you. So I don't know. I just want to encourage everybody that's like watching this is like, it's okay to be vulnerable. And for me, I've always thought that I was being vulnerable, but there's levels to it. And you don't want to like obviously share too much, but this community, right? This like you can't have a community without being vulnerable.
Yeah, you have to show your human side, most definitely.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
Yeah.
The imagery of social media and different platforms sometimes that people present. Yeah. And I don't even believe that I don't think it's always intentional. Sometimes it is, but it's just that people feel like they always have to have everything perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes, we like to hide a lot of the bad stuff away.
Yeah.
I guess we don't like to relive it, right? We only want the good moments and remember the good moments.
Yeah.
A lot of times, and it's unrealistic, right? I mean, there's always going to be goods and bads, no matter what happens.
We live in a world, man. And things happen all the time.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. That just being vulnerable is just, it's uncomfortable. It's so, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And it feels good though when you are not just on social media. I was having a conversation with my daughter. My daughter had came in. I was upset. I was not really upset, but I was having this like epiphany. Right. I was having this epiphany. And I don't know if you guys ever have these moments, but like when something happened in your life, and I'm saying like good stuff where you're just like, I had just did this speech, and the epiphany was for me was that whole being vulnerable thing. And my daughter came in and she's like, "What's wrong, Daddy?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm good. I was just like coughing." You know what I'm saying? Like I'm good.
I'm okay.
But then, I'm good. Daddy's coughing. I was coughing, but I didn't tell her. That was just a symptom of what was going on with me. But I was crying. Yeah. But I didn't want my daughter to know that I was crying, right? But I was crying, tears of like release. I was happy, and the reason that I was happy is because I was in another moment. I was being vulnerable and just talking about the things that pained me, and it just felt so good. And then I feel like me and my daughter got closer from that moment of me, and like all my kids, like I tell them like this is what I'm going through, and it's just like this connection that we have, and it's just like, damn, what if we can do that on a bigger scale?
Yeah, it's kind of like you almost, like you said, you had that epiphany. Like it comes in at the most random times, right? Like you're doing something and you realize, man, I've come so far right now, right? Like it just hits you out of left field, and emotions, like we just talked about, right?
I definitely. It's like this is much needed. Like today, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, man, what are we gonna talk about? I told Marcus I feel like the podcast is gold. I'll say that on here. I think like the podcast is good because it's genuine. But I feel like it's just one of them things of just being in life, figuring it out. That's what it sounds like we're all doing, right? Like, you're taught that to be tough as nails, and everybody is different. Some people feel a little bit more. Some people are a little bit more detached. I think I'm sometimes I'm just a little detached, right? Because I grew up like that.
Yeah, I think we all did, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny, right? We're talking about emotions, and everybody's detached in some aspect. Yeah.
Did you just fall and hit your head on a rock?
Yeah.
No tears.
Yeah.
Hurt inside.
Oh man.
But we know you're still there, man. I really like my whole thing has always been like talking to genuine people, and we're talking about that's what I was getting to. I was just for real, I had forgot my dad train of thought. So, but how we talk about even just regular communication, and sometimes it's even a fear of letting people down, like or fear of anything. Like how Marcus, we may talk about different plans with the podcast or different things, but I think one of the parts that we do really well at is that we talk. We say, "Hey, man, look, I'm not gonna be able to make this," or instead of just not doing it or just not showing, or if you do mess up, we just talk. And I think that's a big thing with a lot of people because we're scared of the consequences of whatever it is. But you just try your best. That's what I see it as. Just try your best.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's something you always have to. You have to realize we're all human. We're all error prone, right? Human error is something, right? It just doesn't go away. I mean, even when we talk about like improving yourself and everything, that's something that I think is important too. Is when you're trying to improve yourself, you realize that you're not going to be perfect. You're never going to get to a point to where you're just perfect. No one is perfect. Yeah. But you like slowly get to a point to where you're like incrementing yourself up, right? Like leveling up slowly. Yeah, so that one little thing you may be messing up on, you correct that, and so you may give the appearance that you may be perfect, but you're far from it because you're still human and you still make mistakes. Yeah. And even some of the things that you're really good at before, right? Sometimes you can skip a beat on that and you might be off on it, right? So
I always say I'm perfectly imperfect, man. Like, definitely, I'm perfectly imperfect.
That's a good one too. I love that, bro.
Listen, I'm trying every day to be better, a better me, right? I think from doing that, a lot of good things happen. A lot of things, even especially at the beginning, a lot of things happen that you may have to face that you necessarily don't want to have to deal with, because the truth hurts for real sometimes. But I feel like the more energy that I put out like that, the people that I meet that become in my circle, that are in my circle, are genuine people, and it all flows. You know what I mean? Like I say, I can hit Marcus up and say, "Hey man, I'm not. It's not that I'm just. I don't want to make a habit of it, but I mean, you know, I'd rather say it than not say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because not saying it just leaves too much for speculation, and people, they wonder what's going on. Or,
well, that's it, man. Your imagination can run. That's the last thing you want it to do is run.
No idea.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a big thing too. I know this is skipping. I feel like sometimes when we think things, we should just ask the person, right? Like, that's another vulnerability thing too. Like, hey man, and then the person to tell you either yes or no. Yeah, I was thinking, oh no, I wasn't thinking that, man. Like, you know.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. And I think we can all. And sorry about the camera thing, man. It's weird. It's weird. All of a sudden, my batteries just died. It's like, what? and I can hear y'all talking about imperfection, and I'm like, yeah, all right, cool. Like, hey, these dudes
played it out that way.
Yeah, man. Y'all speaking to my soul, man. But man, I love this conversation, man. This is some good stuff, man. This is some good stuff.
It's definitely. Man. I mean, well, that's it, man. Is, you know, we try to play this role of being perfect and realizing and thinking that we have it all figured out, right? Just because we get on camera doesn't mean we have it all figured out.
Yeah,
we're all still human. We're all still doing this. We're just we try to do more, right? We're in that field that we want to improve ourselves. So we want to see the best of what we have, right? And that's not saying everybody. Some people, have different goals and objectives in life, but I know for like us, like we want to, what is like the optimal self, right? I want to be there, right. And I'm gonna push whatever I can to get there. And some people just, people are happy with just having a garden and just like chilling, right? Like going 9 to 5, coming home and working on the garden, and they're happy with that.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, hey, when you said that, it's weird, man. When you said that, I got anxiety.
What? Oh yeah.
and the reason why is I never
because you couldn't imagine yourself doing that, right? Is that why?
Man, yes. It's scared, and that's what scares me. What scares me the most out of anything is getting to a point and being at a point to where I'm just comfortable with comfortable. And I'm not saying this like in a bad way. I'm saying like that I'm just comfortable being where I'm at in that moment. I'm 38 years old. I don't want to be comfortable with the way Tony Taylor is, at this moment right now, and this time. I want to keep growing and I want to keep elevating so that, when it is time to sit and watch the garden and look at the butterflies, I can say, you know what, I'm doing this because I'm tired. I'm doing this because I've fulfilled all of my goals and everything. Now it's time to relax. And I was thinking about this quote that I had pulled up earlier from Earl Nightingale, and it's so simple. It's so simple. It blows my mind every time I read it. And it goes, success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or ideal. And when Earl Nightingale, when he dropped this, he dubbed it as the strangest secret. And it was just like this big publication. And there's still they're still like reaping the benefits off of this publication. But what he was saying, and the reason why it was so big, was your goals and your dreams are enough. They're enough. So if you want to be a doctor, that's enough. If you want to be a lawyer, that's enough. If you want to be a trash man or trash woman, that's enough. If you want to be a computer technician, that's enough. And your success if you complete those goals.
Mm-hmm.
So it says success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal or idea. And that's what's inside of you, what's inside of your head. And that's what I love about that. And for me, I don't see that being a success for me, just being okay with where I'm at, which is a problem too.
It's funny you say that. I had a buddy, he writes poems. He's always talk about being content without being complacent. Yeah, that's the biggest, is to be happy. But then just because you're happy doesn't mean that you have to be complacent. You know, it's one of them things. And I think that some people have that kind of spirit, that kind of willpower. We run into an issue when we're never content or we're always complacent. That's the problem. You know, and it's funny, think about everything you guys saying. One of the quotes that I really like is by Vince Lombardi. Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. That's Vince Lombardi. And I really like that one too. So it's funny how we're talking about quotes, and some quotes really shape you.
Yeah.
They just shape you because your mind, because, you know, we're responsible for what we put inside of us, all up in here. And that's what really comes out. We can fake, but guess what? When you fake, like right now, I curse, right? But that's because I listen to stuff with curse words. I hear, you know, seriously.
Yeah.
Anything you say with passion, you gotta have an F-bomb in it, right?
Yeah. I like to.
Since that's inside of me, I let it go there. Even if I don't do it, if I get mad, I mean, off camera, on camera, I'll be like, fuck. Because that's it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So why not go with it, right?
Why not go with it? Or if you don't like it, why not work on fixing it?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to filter everything. Yeah.
You won't be so restrained anymore. You'll be like, all right, I worked on whatever. If that's a thing, it's not a thing for me right now. So, you know, but
I feel like my curse words are strategically placed. Not like I don't think them out, but they drop perfectly when they're supposed to.
I know what me and what I do. A lot of people, like when I do drop the F-bomb, I'll say like fuck or something like that. They're like, whoa, wait, what did you just do there? They almost like
throws
make me
them
the
off.
equivalent.
Like, you don't typically
like make me the equivalent to being like a pastor or something. But I'm like, no, this is the way that I operate. This is what I have to do. Like even talking to my mom, she's just like, oh, I saw something you did. You know, if you ever want to get booked to speak at a church, then maybe you shouldn't curse so much or something like that. And I'm like, okay, you're right. Maybe not so much, but I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to fit into somebody else's lens. This is who I am. And I'm encouraging people to be their true self. So why not I be my true self?
Yeah, most definitely. I love that.
Yeah. And there's value. It's value in being your true self. It's value in that. And this the thing about vulnerability we talk about. You know, the thing is that when you're vulnerable, you do put yourself out there to be hurt or helped.
That's a quote. That was good. Did you hear what you did? No, I love that.
Sean's dropping his own quotes.
Hey, you know, stay woke.
No, that's good, man. That's good. One of my favorite quotes, so I don't forget, is you ever be like in the moment of something and everybody will hear one thing, but then you hear something like in between all of that, in between all of it. You guys have seen E.T., the hip hop preacher, right? Have you guys seen him? And his famous his famous thing, which actually what blew him up was when he was talking about the guru story, right? The guru story, the guy going down, and you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, that whole deal.
Yeah.
In that moment, I felt like everybody was kind of stuck on that. But what hit me and almost like blew my brains and turned, this is almost like 10 years ago. And I still hear it to this day. And when I hear this quote, dude, it does something to me, right? And I literally hear it. I'll hear it in those moments those moments where I'm unsure, those moments where I'm just like, I've hit a brick wall. I'll hear, don't cry to give up, cry to keep going. And he said that in the middle of that. And there's sometimes I'll be talking to people in groups, and they're like, where did you get that from? That's really cool. They think that it was something that I dropped. And I'm like, no. I'm like, have you ever heard of this speaker? And they're like, yeah. Did you hear this speech? They're like, yeah. I'm saying, but did you hear this? He said this during that. And that's where I got that from. And it's just like, okay. And I feel like when I hear it, it's like, okay, let everything that's inside of you, the feeling of rejection, the feeling of pain, the feeling of fear, the feeling of doubt, the feeling of being unsure, right? Through each teardrop, right? That's going to make me feel better. And I remember being a kid doing that, like going through those emotions and process and certain things that happened in my life. And then afterwards, I'm just like, damn, I feel so good right now. And so that's one of my favorite quotes, man. Definitely. Like it is like off the chain for me.
It's funny. I never caught that part, but I think that's a really
see what I'm saying though.
Yeah. Interesting how you pick up on what things like you can relate to more in quotes than other people typically might.
Yeah. And that's one thing that it's different strokes for different folks. And some people, they're going to hear certain things, and some people, they're going to hear other things. And it's just like, what's for you? What's for you? Yeah. I like talking to y'all, man. I could do this freaking every week, man.
Hell yeah, man.
It's so funny you say that, because I realized something years ago myself. Like, when we hear something like that, when it stands out in our brain, it's definitely for us, and it's for us to work. And then, I mean, we can share it, but how maybe you ever hear somebody, it's like going to church or something. They'll hear something and they'll come back like, you should have heard this. No, that was for you. That was for you. You was there. It was for you. I'm glad you thought about me, but it was for you. And a lot of times, if we take the things that's for us, even when we present it to somebody, they take it to heart more because they feel it. They know.
Well, I think the big thing about that too, right? It's all depends on your current situation, right? What are you going through right now? Yeah. And I think that because our minds like to find the patterns, right? And when you're in a current situation, right, you can probably hear the same quote like a million times. It doesn't really hit you. And then you can be in a situation like Tony is, right, where perhaps you're going through something, and so you don't catch the main part of the quote, but you catch, the second line of the quote, and you're like, man, I can really relate to that because of my situation right now. And then it opens up perspective and stuff. And I think that's what the whole thing about quotes is, right? It just really opens up your perspective on the way you look at the world.
Shorten the book up, man. It shortens the book up.
Yeah. It refocuses it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's the answer. It's the little cheat sheet. You
Yeah.
got a book that has 85 chapters, and then you got 20 quotes.
Cliff notes for life, essentially, right?
Yeah.
That's what you need, man. A book of cliff notes for life to help put stuff in perspective for you. I know one of the biggest quotes for me, like I was talking about a couple of years ago, when I was going through some hard times, and I was thinking, a lot of times we try to look for things that help fill the voids to make us happy. It was that Abraham Lincoln quote about, folks make their minds up as happy as they're going to be. I think I probably murdered that quote, but most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. That's what it is. It's most folks are happy to make. Most folks are as happy as they make their minds up to be. And that quote's always kind of stuck with me. Again, I didn't memorize the quote, but it is always something I've thought about happiness, right? Like it's something you create yourself, and not something you look for external. And a lot of times I feel like anytime I'm like we talk about pushing ourselves and stuff, I need to realize like I can be happy right now. I don't need to obtain this thing or relationship or whatever the case is. Like I can be happy at any moment. And I know that they've done like experiments on this too about like people winning the lottery, right? It's just like a flip in your mind, a switch in your mind that you essentially turn on, right? Like the world could be at a really bad place right now, but if someone just came on the phone and said, "Hey, you won the lottery," right? Like how quick could your mind flip? You're like, whoa, all that stress and everything just goes away, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the same way with happiness, right? It's just flipping and understanding that, okay, I don't need all these things. And that's why a lot of times I've been doing like I started really getting into what is that thing called? Minimalism and stuff like that, right? And not and like removing stuff and decluttering stuff and realizing that I am enough and trying to refocus on that. It really helps, man.
I like what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You said I am enough. And what I can think about is, you know, people that get into the addiction to like shopping or needing to have a bunch of things. And I was just thinking like, that's good because like I am enough. I don't need these material possessions to make me feel whole. That's good. That's good. That's good.
But it's not just that too, right?
Everybody
like it's like us.
Dropping
like
in there. Look,
yeah,
Mark, you gotta say it with a smile too. I am.
I am enough. And Tony just saying that, and then he said he couldn't go garden, right? Because he doesn't believe he's enough.
All right, I'm saying that's not enough. The garden ain't enough. The garden ain't enough. I mean,
but that could be the best damn garden ever, man. See, it could be enough. You can make it enough.
I'm not ready to give all my resources to it. We were gardening yesterday. And I'm like, hey, you know, like I can see the neighbors, man. They outside, they drinking their sun tea and they gardening, they talking to the flowers and stuff like that, right? And they having a good old time, and that's cool. But for me, I'm like, all right, I'm looking at the Home Depot receipt. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. Honey, I got 20 more minutes because I guess I need to go work on my craft, the thing that I'm passionate about. I'm good. I think it looked good. Let's go. I like the bark. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. But I think like just like being enough, right? Like it's like for me, I've always felt like, right, like when I got divorced and stuff and I was essentially put back to where like I didn't have anything, right? Like I felt comfortable, like strangely comfortable, right? Like it's nice not having the things because you realize that you do have that stuff and it really doesn't matter, right? And like putting yourself back in that spot where you're like the struggle, right? It makes you feel alive. Maybe that's where I'm going with that. But and realizing that you are enough and realizing that you can essentially recreate anything that you want, right? It's just about having the knowledge and building off of that.
Yeah, so, I agree. Because if you know you're enough, you know you're capable.
Yeah. It's like you could take you can strip me of everything, but I have the knowledge and I'm not worried about it. I can go and do it again.
Tony said on the last episode when Tony was on here saying champion people's success. And we were talking about some of the reasons why people don't champion people's success and they're quote unquote haters. It's because they just don't believe in themselves. Because if you believe in yourself, when you see somebody succeed, you will be happy because you will know that that's humanly possible. And especially if you know them.
Yeah.
Like, man, they did it.
I don't know if I said this before, but I was telling my wife because I was like, I'm going to be on the improvement lounge. And I was going through y'all's social media, just trying to, tell her, the brothers I was at last time, the white brother and the black brother, you know what I mean? I was like, you remember I was telling you that, I like the vibe of the show, but I was going through y'all's social media, and I was looking at y'all's Instagrams, and I'm like, dang, like that is really cool. That is really cool as far as the following that you guys have built up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, genuinely, I was like happy. I was like, I had this feeling of like like, oh my God, look at my brothers, man. They're doing it. They're doing a good job. They're living, walking, and running in their purpose. Like I was, and I was happy. I was happy, and I realized that there's some people, like to what you were saying, you know, there's some people, they're not gonna be happy. They're not gonna be happy with that. They're gonna be like, oh, why are they looking at that trash for, or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't want to see your muscles all the time, man.
I mean, he got 2 kids. How many baby mamas does he have? Listen, why are you worried about that, man? Why are you worried about that?
It happens.
It's
happens.
Funny though. I like it because it's funny. That's the vibe that I get from you too. And Marcus had told me before, he's like, Tony's a real cool guy, but that's the vibe I get from him. And this might be a bold statement right now. I think in my life, and Junior, I could speak that only those people will be around me. Well, I know only those type of people can stay around me because I don't really tolerate anything else. You know, like I don't tolerate like somebody's coming to me talking about something. If you want to come to me talking about somebody, honestly, I do not want to hear it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're not like a close friend and I know you venting, but if you're just coming to me, listen, man, don't even invade my soul with that. Like you're taking up brain space. I don't want to hear that, man.
Because it brings you down, man.
Yeah.
They focus on the negative too much. Yeah. Is what the problem is. Yeah.
And I always say, man, I'm at this point in my life, man, I'm not mature enough to even go down that path with somebody and feel like I can come back. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be sitting up gossiping with somebody. Being that's some low vibration shit right there. You know, you know what I mean?
Like, what are you doing? Like, you know, it's so many things in the day to do and so many things to achieve. You would really want to feed yourself. Like I say, if it's not a close friend, they're venting. And if they're a close friend and they are venting and it's become I say this word, hold on, here we go, a pattern. I say it wrong every time, but if it becomes that, then the close friend, you're going to tell them like, look, man, you've been talking about the same shit. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, like, you know, let's talk about the real root of it. Because a lot of times people talk around something, they're not really talking about what the real issue is. But other than that, if you're just some random person, I don't want to hear it, man. I'm sorry. Like I like to see people succeed. I wish everybody could do well. Even selfishly, you think about things like this. I think Jay-Z said this one time. You rather for everybody else around you to eat. Then there's no hatred, no jealousy. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to be the one. I don't even want it to be. I just, let me be a guy that's in a circle of a lot of people that's just doing things, if that's the case. If not, I'll just stand by my damn self. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And he also, I think he said too, in that same verse, if everybody in your crew ain't rich, your crew is rugged.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Because I mean, you're foolish to not gain the knowledge from the people that's around you. I feel like me and Marcus, we learn and teach.
I like that.
Simple, that's simple.
Learn
like we learn and teach.
Yeah,
I always feel like I'm learning more from him than he. But I just think because I'm always a learner. Like that's what I like to do. I learn from everybody.
And I'm pretty sure he feel the same way.
Yeah, the same way.
Yeah.
That's the funny part about it, man. But I'm always. I try to drive. Here we go with stocks again. I asked Marcus a lot of questions. Like, slow it down for me, man. Like, Marcus, he good with that stuff. So he'll be talking about the inflations and the bonds. I'm like, hold on. I understand inflations, but then you're talking about the bond people. What the hell is that? But I like that because then it makes me grow. Like it forces.
It makes you think about something you don't typically think about. Yeah,
and it's exercising your brain. Yeah.
Well, it's even like with you and like I've worked out all my life, right? Like I think I know a lot, but there's like a lot of stuff that we've talked about that I have no clue, right? Like just being overtrained and stuff like that and symptoms of like that. And then just other things, exercises and stuff to help you grow muscle better and stuff like that. It's always good to do that. And a lot of times, again, like you said, like you're talking about, if you don't ask, right? Like and this is what I always preach on my channel too, is being curious, right? And then just asking that question, like, well, what does that mean? Or being like that 5-year-old kid, like, why is it that way?
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And not be afraid of that, man. You have to, and it goes back to that first quote, like the whole fear thing, like just let go of all that crap, right? Because you're imprisoning yourself from being able to make progress in life. Just go out there and just give it your all, right? And be open 110% about everything and ask questions. And if someone's really going to get offended because of a question you ask, I'm just trying to learn, right? I'm not.
It's their problem.
Yeah, and that's how you get that. Yeah, that's how you get the answer. I worked for this Japanese company, and I worked as the safety director. So it was my job to figure out why something happened. And I would go into this room. I would go into this room with these folks, and sometimes, man, I would be on the Zoom like this with like the head of the company. You know, he's in Japan, and I didn't understand the way that it was, and I would take offense to it. They would always say, "Why?" I was like, "Well, there was a vehicle accident in the parking lot, sir. Why?" I don't know. Okay, Tony. Okay, Tony, son, go figure it out. And then we'll get back, and I'll get back on the call. And then it was the next why after that. And we would go, and it was part of the system, the 5 whys. That's figuring out what the root cause analysis is. It's the 5 whys. And if you can keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, and you delineating, right, all the whys, you'll get to the root cause eventually, until you can't ask yourself or answer any more questions. And that's usually the root cause. And that is what life is about, is being curious. That's how you figure it out, right?
Well, that's a hard thing too, is a lot of people don't want to go that deep, right? Well, that's what I've noticed, is a lot of people will go maybe to that second or third why and realize, man, this is getting too deep. I don't want to go this deep in this subject. But if you can really follow up and do that, like you're talking about, and get those 5 whys, right? Like you can really uncover some things. And that's what's helped me on a lot of things. And a lot of things I do talk about too, is how I've been able to change my, essentially my lifestyle into a plant-based lifestyle, is keep asking why, and why I was able to do the stocks, because I kept asking why, trying to figure it out. And it's changed my life, right? Like, as opposed to just taking it for face value and maybe ask a why, and then and not get the answer I want. And so I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is, right? And then not following up with it. It's a big thing.
I definitely agree, man. And it feels good to just start to unlock certain things, to know why. It actually helps you to become a better individual, answering whys too, because sometimes people ask you very good questions, so you have to go research it. Like, that makes you better. That's why the teacher should be always learning and growing. I feel like you do things for trial and error. You get caught up in trying to be the example. Not caught up, but you just always steadily improving. And then even like we would talk about fitness now, just the balance of that, what's real and what's not, far as like, that's a different conversation. But the average person does not walk around, 3% body fat.
Right.
Tell me Instagram's wrong. Come on, man.
I'm glad you said that, man.
And I know some people know this, but it's also building a time with your family. Like today, like as soon as we get off here, my oldest about to be on the grill. I'm about to sit back, help him a little bit while he cooked this food on his grill. Man, it's just appreciating the little things in life and knowing the balance. Is like just having a balance. And that's what I like, is I think the more questions that you ask, the easier you can make your life.
Yeah.
Like
that's why we read books, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The stock market itself is a lot of financial freedom in that. So you can do the things that you need to do. I mean, it's just so many things. Tony, I watch your page, and you talking about content, man. You pushing out stuff all the time, bro. You're pushing.
Yeah, he's
stuff
on
out,
it, man.
Like,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Like I
appreciate it.
It's good. And Marcus on there. Marcus, he's steadily pushing.
I said, yeah, I've kind of come back to that whole realization that I'm trying to like slow it down a little bit and not try to stress myself out, right? Like Sean and I had talked about this before about doing too much, and that's all I was doing was just working for myself. I try to take that step back, and even joking about the whole gardening thing and stuff, right? And kind of going back to that thing you were talking about, it's like and asking myself that question, right? Like, would I be okay at some point to where I'm not pushing so hard? And so I'm trying to like adjust that. Okay, well, like, there's a reason you're doing this. You're working for yourself, right? You're doing all these other things. Like, why, push yourself so hard? Yes, I do agree. There are points when especially the initial part, right? When you're first starting, I think you really need to push hard, but you get to a point to where you can relax, right? And trying to define what that relax is for you. At some point, right?
I think what I would tell the beginner me and what I was doing is I don't know if it's so much. It's like I would set myself up more to be in that relaxed, set systems up to play to make sure I work smarter than harder. Like, I think that's the initial stage is really if we get into like, it's like on a job, if we really get into the initial, because think about it, the job, of course, we're trying to get, if we're talking about telecom, construction, whatever, we're trying to get to the end result of whatever they wanted to be. But before we do that, they had a vision. So we took care of the vision part. Then we got certain things that we set up all the way to get to that point to make this thing run. And that's one of the things I've been pulling back now. And at times I'm almost mute. That's why it's just my story. Is that I'm trying to set up things to let it work, to let it run. I told you my son, my oldest, when he wrote a little business plan, it was a plan with the company and I didn't work. So like he put me out. He said, "You're getting old." He put me out, man. Like seriously, he put me out. And lately I've been really thinking about things like that, just really working smarter. It's in us, man. I feel like we're gonna push, we're gonna thrive, but being smarter, I guess. I know for me, you're thinking like, okay, you're not getting any younger. I don't feel bad or anything like that, but what am I going to set up to the point so I don't have to do these things like waking up so early just because.
I think
I want to wake up because I want to. I really, really would like to wake up, honestly, without the alarm every morning at a time that I want to wake up. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Maybe I'm dreaming.
No, you're not, bro. You're not. I love that you say that because that alarm, bro. that alarm and
no
that
matter
alarm.
How much sleep you get, man. No matter how much sleep you get.
You wake up and you just like right.
But the thing is, I think you get to a point to where, like, even for me, like, I hated, like, when I went back to start waking up at like 3:00 or 3:30 in the morning, right? Like, I was like, man, this is gonna suck. But now it's like I start waking up before my alarm, and I'm okay. Yeah. It's just more like now I got to be conscious. I'm waking up at this time, so I probably should go to bed earlier so I can get a full night's rest, right?
You go to work early, or you just like waking up?
I just like waking up early, get some stuff done.
Oh, I like
that. I like to wake up early.
I like the silence, right? Because in the morning, that's like my favorite time, because you have that silence to where you can focus, and that's where you're most optimal, right? Where your brain is most optimal, is fresh from the rest and everything.
So what time do you go to sleep?
I try to go to bed at 9, but sometimes it goes
like
11. I have to force myself, but yeah.
No, I like that. Yeah.
I wear this watch, right? And it tracks my recovery and stuff. I've noticed this. Just a fun fact. When I wake up without the alarm, my recovery is much better.
Yeah.
Like when I just wake up. Now, due to the fact that like circadian rhythm, like we kind of will wake up at the same time, but I want to be able to wake up and go back to sleep if I want. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
nah, I need more
just to
rest.
have that
I'm gonna go back to
option,
sleep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that time is coming. I feel like I remember this book a while ago. It's about how the successful people think or something like that. And one of the things I've seen in a lot of books, for some reason, majority of successful people, they wake up real early and they all read a lot of books. That's just something that connected for me.
Yeah. Well, for me, even I think that quote or that thing about getting up early, I don't think that matters, right? It's about your productivity when you're awake,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
ultimately what matters. Like if you can wake up at 10 o'clock, at 10 a.m. in the morning, it really doesn't matter. Just as long as you're productive during the hours that
Yeah.
you're awake,
I
is really what
agree.
matters. Yeah, because
I
I mean,
agree. I
like
definitely agree.
there
I
are
just think that,
people.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that there are people that can get a lot done in a short amount of time, as opposed to people that they can spend a couple hours on something, right? And so it's being, like you said, being efficient, but
Yeah.
you do have to have the same schedule. Now, if you wake up at 6 one day and you wake up at 10 o'clock the next day and your schedule is just not the same, then yes, it can, I think that can really mess you up. And I think that's what they're trying to say is, well, if you wake up at 3 o'clock, it should be 3 o'clock. Because if you notice, even like, we're talking about what's his name? I can't even remember his name. That motivational speaker,
Eric Thomas, E.T.
Eric Thomas. Yeah, about how he wakes up, but he wakes up at the same time every day. It's just having that strict schedule that's all the time. So if you wake up at 10
a.m.,
he's
a 3 a.m. guy too, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as your schedule is the same, then it's easier. You can build a routine around that. That's ultimately what matters, right? As long as your framework is solid, you wake up at 10 a.m. every day. Well, that's fine. But you got to be able to set your routine. If you have like sporadic, like different times, then yeah, it's gonna be hard to be effective.
For me, it's like what you said.
That's the entrepreneur mentality. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's the entrepreneur mentality, because if you work for somewhere or work for someone, you have to be there at a certain time, and it's almost like a crutch, right? At least it was for me when I was working. It's almost like a crutch. But for me and my mentality, the way that my brain is kind of firing right now, it's like as soon as that sun kick in, or if something shifts like while I'm sleeping, I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. Oh, I instantly, when I wake up, man, I start dreaming, and there's no way for me to go back to sleep, because hey, as an entrepreneur, I don't, you don't have that luxury of, let me hit snooze or let me call in. Ain't no such thing as calling in, because
you feel guilty.
Yeah.
So what I do, the reason for me why I like the early one is just like what Marcus you initially said is that it's so quiet and the kids are not woke. Nobody's gonna probably call my phone at that time. I'm just flat out I can get, especially on days that I don't have to go to the gym, I can flat out get 3 or 4 hours of work in with no issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With no issue, like flat out. If I wake up a little bit later, things are popping. I got family members calling me. I got this happening.
Kids fighting.
I got things
like you're trying to play catch up from that point.
Yeah, like because at that point, even like if we talking about like a Pearl, I might have to call them. But this all cuts into my time now. But when it's that early, I can't even call. Who am I gonna call? I can leave a voicemail, or get hung up on a few times probably, but so I definitely agree. It's all on what you do with your time. But for me, the most productive time is early. For somebody else, that could be noon time.
Yeah. I heard some people like different times of day they work better. Like some people work better at night. I'm burnt out by then, to be honest.
Yeah. I work, man. I noticed that right before I go to sleep, I'll be strategizing and I'll come up with the dopest ideas at night.
Yeah.
But it's not feasible. And if I work that night, man, oh my God, it'll probably be the next level. but that goes to what you're saying. And it makes me think about those days where I can't sleep, or I can't sleep, or I do burn the midnight oil, and maybe I'm going off of 24 hours of just being woke, and I'm just getting so much stuff done. And it's just like, okay, maybe it needs to be a 5 or 4. I would never go to 3 a.m. But to me, that just sounds like 3 a.m. Man, I don't know. There's some. I don't know.
You definitely have to get used to that, though. I'm not. Yeah,
well, see, here's the thing. I'm not just going to throw this out here. So we're talking about communicating everything. I do take power naps, right? I do believe in those too. So I do take like 20-minute naps through the
pod.
Yeah, throughout the day. That's important, right? Because like I don't want to be reliant on like coffee and stuff either, right? And sleep is most important and helps you actually remember and file away all the things that you're learning is sleep. And so sleep is important. So that's why I will take like a cat nap during the day, typically, not all the time, but a good majority of the time. If I'm too tired, I'd rather just take a 20-minute nap than sit and drink coffee, right? And it helps a lot more.
How do you get the discipline to wake up after that 20 minutes, man? Because I know
that's when the alarm clock comes in.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, I know for me, man, if I take a nap, I take a nap. I haven't did it in a minute, but if I take a nap, I'll be waking up. If it's 12, I'll probably be waking up at 5. Like, oh man.
It's funny. It's definitely refreshing, but sometimes you might wake up like all slobbering. In 20 minutes, you'd be surprised. You may start dreaming and everything. But
I've had some.
Recharge you. It actually, after you get past the jogging, sometimes, like, I don't know about you, Marcus, sometimes when I wake up from a 20-minute nap, 20, 30 minutes, I still want to go back to sleep. But once I get to moving around in the day, I'm like, dang, I'm glad I had that nap. I feel really good.
Yeah, sometimes it just depends. I mean, sometimes it's like a quick, like 15-minute nap. It feels like I slept all night. And sometimes doing or just laying down for that 15 minutes, I can be like, man, I'd just rather roll over and go sleep for the next couple hours. But it just really depends. But I force myself up at that point because I get that grogginess. I'm trying to avoid, again, from having coffee or something to stimulate me. I just get up.
Yeah, my hope is, even with this, 'cause I know we getting up on time, is just everybody that's listening to, think about balance, think about, knowing their why. Now we're going to
ask why plenty of times.
Ask why. Feel free. Know that time doesn't wait for anyone. Definitely stay encouraged, stay inspired, and shameless, not even shameless plug. Like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button.
There you go. I love it. Got to get it in, right?
You got to get it in. Definitely. Tony, you have a YouTube?
Yeah, I do. It is Tony Taylor Inspires. That's everything. That's where I'm at on all of social media: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Now, well, can I get a plug in too? No,
definitely.
You can drop plugins whenever you want, man.
Yeah, no, and I got this project that I'm working on, man, and I believe in it. I believe in it. We've been talking about waking up in the morning, and just one thing for me is I got in this habit. Of I wake up and I look straight at my phone. Right? Do you guys do that too?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I look straight at my phone, and if I go to like Facebook or whatever site I'm on, there's a chance I might see something inspirational. There's a chance I might see something that's not inspirational. So one thing that I've been doing is I do 2 things in the morning. I wake up, and just like this morning, I wake up and I say my intentions. I say the things that I'm happy for, the things that I'm working on, and I manifest it. And then I will grab my phone, and there's this app that's called Pep Talk Motivation. And you can, with this app, you can set this app to where it can wake you up, and it could be your alarm clock. So you could wake up in the morning. If you like listening to Mel Robbins, you can set it to where it says Mel Robbins. You can set it to Tony Robbins. You can set it to Oprah. You can set it to The Rock. And as of late, you can set this app to me. If you want to hear me run my mouth about the things that I talk about being inspired amongst the uninspired, and just walking through life, and some of the things that I'm talking about, you can click on that, and you just type in Tony Taylor, and you'll hear my voice. And one thing that I love about the material that I'm bringing to that app is the things that I've gone through in my life, the things that me thinking that I'm unworthy, me thinking that the path that I'm on is not a righteous path. And what this is doing and what these segments are doing, they're reaffirming and they're manifesting the positive energy that you need to wake up to. So I highly recommend checking out the Pep Talk Motivation app. It is amazing. It's on Android and iOS, and you can actually go to the website if you still use a computer.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us and giving us the insights. And again, Pep Talk, look for Tony Taylor Inspires. And Sean.
Another show.
Another show. Let's knock it out. Thank you guys for joining us. Till next time. Talk to you later.